What's happening, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today I just kind of want to shout about something, and that is the current market for TJs. It kind of applies to a lot of different Jeeps, and I guess just Jeep as a whole in the used market. As everybody knows, if you're looking at these things, rust is a huge issue, and people really don't care to fix it properly, and a lot of people try and just patch it and paint it correctly and just sell it off, and someone else gets stuck with it. It's really easy to get fooled, and you buy one of these and it's either too far gone to even fix, or you're stuck with thousands in repairs. I've had, my Jeep is capped, the whole center section of the frame is capped, so I know all about it. And obviously I have another one over here that I want to talk about. So I think the prices on these things is really wild right now. A couple years ago, you could probably pick one of these things up for like 10 grand. Like I'm talking like mint Rubicon, spotless, probably 10 grand. And now the LJs are consistently asking 25,000, which is I don't think it's ridiculous. I get it. They are. People will argue this, but I think they are a collector car, and they're getting older, so they're harder to find. It's what it is. I just wanted to specifically kind of talk about rust. If you're looking at one of these Jeeps, I could point out and explain to you where it rusts and why it rusts in those spots. So if you're going, you can bring your screwdriver, bring your flashlight, and you can check it out for yourself. Hopefully some people find this video and you know, they don't get screwed over. I'll show you. This is my Jeep, for those that don't know. This is Alana 2003 TJ, and the 03 to 06 frames are supposed to be galvanized, and that's supposed to help with rust, but very clearly with mine here, it doesn't do anything. I wish I had the bumper off to show you the nuts that are welded on the inside of the frame here for the bumper bolts. There's like not a lot of material left there. So I'll just walk you guys around this and show you what's up. You know what, let me get a light. Alright, so you can see where my frame has been patched there, right behind the body mount. You can see the weld going up into the body mount. It actually goes just under the body mount, and along the top of the frame there you see that weld. So this whole section has been done, and a very common spot for any Jeep to rot out is at these skid plate bolts. So let me backtrack a little bit. These frames, they have holes, and a lot of them are access holes, and I guess some of them are for aeration. Like this hole here is to allow you to get to the upper control arm, which is through there. There's a bolt through there. It's too dark for me to be able to show you, but like that's an access hole. And so when you're rinsing down your Jeep, you take it out the beach or take it out of the mud, you're gonna rinse that spot. Water is gonna get in there, and it's gonna go naturally downhill to the lowest spot, which is gonna be right behind the control arm. And that is also probably the most common spot to find rust on these things. And spin around to the other side here. So on this side, my safety cap is extended all the way up to there, because my control arm had rot right up in here. And now, let me see if I can stick the camera to this. It's going to be difficult for me to get. But even though it's been patched correctly, let's see. There it is. There's a hole right there, right ahead of the patch. Oh, that's very difficult for me to film. So, even though this has a correct patch on it, you still have to beware. You have to look under there. You have to feel around. And it's very strange to me how it rotted that far up. I guess this side was a lot worse than I thought. And then as you can see on the cap, covers the bottom too. And these are welded together. So, these are all done. There's my rear. The rear is okay. This is the other really common spot, is right here. And this is, both of these are very, very dangerous. If this is rotted out, there's a lot of force being applied on your lower control arm mounts here. That is basically what holds your axle in place. So if this isn't 100%, if this weld isn't good, if there's a crack here, it really is not going to take much. It's really not going to take much to rip that right off. You know, if you hit a bump the wrong way, and it's going to cause a lot of damage if your rear axle comes detached from the frame, because you're going to wreck your gas tank, you're going to wreck all sorts of things. You might probably wreck the body, stuff like that. So let's talk about in the back here as well. See, my frame looks good. I have a nice coat of paint on it, but see that? Again, it's a low point. There's a hole. I'll go on the light side. There's a hole right here. I think this one is just for air, which is kind of silly. So you're rinsing your Jeep off, water gets in there, and it just sits here. It has no way to get out. This rear fascia, this is actually just like, it sits on top of another piece of metal that's behind here. So this is like capped off the end of your frame. So water is gonna get in there and it's just gonna sit right here. I do believe there's a hole from the factory down here, but again, it's not all the way in the back, so the water will just sit. See the size of the rot hole I have here? And for those of you that aren't aware, that's what this one behind me is for. The frame's in really good shape, so I have some experience in what I'm talking about here. If you have one of these Jeeps and you want to prolong it, you know, if you're doing a frame restoration, you want to get it and it's in good shape and you want to keep it that way, I think the best way, other than keeping it inside and trying not to rinse the frame, is drilling drain holes at those low points. There needs to be something done to get the water out of here. I do think what went wrong with my frame here is that I caught it, I think, in time, and I got it patched correctly. Everything was cut out, and the safety cap was welded on and painted correctly inside and out. But the safety caps do not have drain holes in them. And so I've had this cap on here for almost probably 4 years now. And I rinse and wash my Jeep religiously. Living in New York, it's a very important thing to do. It's just the sitting water. It gets in there and it has nowhere to go. So you drive through a puddle in the winter, you get some salt in there, and now you're just mixing salt water around, and that's just gonna sit there for literally every aging second of the Jeep. You need to check these 4 key points. The lower control arm right here, the skid plate, and the rear control arm. Actually, that'd be six key points on both sides. And then I'm sure this part in a lot of Jeeps is going to be covered up. You can see what it's supposed to look like over here on this one. There's nuts welded to the inside of the frame that hold the bumper on. And on mine, there is very little material here. So this is something that's going to be covered up a lot. Generally, this isn't something to worry about here because it's it's wide open, so if water does get in there, it can escape. There's plenty of air to get in and out and dry it out, and there's air moving in there. So if you're looking at these things, bring a hammer, check those spots. Just because it's painted nicely, actually, if you ask me, buying a Jeep with a freshly painted frame, unless it is done by a professional, I mean, even still, I would prefer to buy it unpainted, like not even touched, like this one, for example. There is not a single coat of paint on this frame down here. To me, that's better. If you know what you're looking at, you're watching this video, you're learning about it, that's what you want. You know someone wasn't trying to cover anything up, and I mean, not that someone's trying to cover something up, but nothing was covered up in general. So that's a big problem with these things. I see Jeeps with rust on the outside, like on the fenders here. This doesn't seem to mean much to people when they're putting their Jeeps up for sale, which is a little ridiculous to me. So yeah, let's talk about the body now. So the body on these things, again, thin sheet metal, nothing crazy. I'm gonna use this one for example because it's exposed. So here's the floor pan. Water gets in these things, it happens. The carpet just soaks it up and water will just sit there, and that's what happens. That's not bad, it's not good, but you definitely need to check underneath your carpets. And so over here is a drain hole, and I think these are drain holes too. There's actually a nut right there. That's how rusty that is. That's not in good shape. Hopefully I can get that out. Probably gonna have to drill that one. So here's your drain hole. It has a rubber plug in it, and that's good if it's never been removed. So the problem with that, there is a gap between your floorboards. There's the inner floorboard, which is about here. There's the lower floorboard, which is, you can see from underneath, which is down here more. And the problem with that is that water will get in that drain hole, and it'll work its way to the back corner here, and it'll sit right in the back corner of the body here, where the wheel well comes down and it seals that gap like a box. So the water is just gonna sit in the corner here. And this Jeep is in really good shape, so I can't really show you. On mine, I have a huge hole right behind my fender here. This is, my sliders are actually covering it up. I grinded it down and painted it nicely. But there's a significant hole right there. I hope that makes sense. There's a box here, and there's nowhere for the water to go. So it sits back in here, and you can see there's a little bit of rust right here. And it sits in here, and a lot of Jeeps you can probably put your finger or a screwdriver right through here. And so that's a key point. Jeeps, I actually still have them in mine. These things have a plastic liner here, and there's just like a quick clip. And it's right in there. Peel that back, look in there, that's very important. And then also, for some reason, I don't understand this one. This is where the body mount is, and this is actually boxed in here. So like there's a plate on the bottom here, and there's a plate on the top for the body to mount in. I really don't know why that rusted like it did, but I have seen that on a couple Jeeps. I've actually seen it on this side too. That one seems a little strange to me, but there's a spot to check also. So another spot that I've noticed on a lot of Jeeps, I've actually had it repaired on mine, is right in the middle of the door, right here too. That one escapes me too, because there's a lip under here. Let me get the light again. There's a bit of a lip there. So I'm not sure where that water is going to, but there's very commonly a spot of rot here. And you know, if you have rock sliders like this, you'd never even know if you looked at this Jeep. So very important to feel under this channel. It should feel very smooth. If you feel any flaking or anything, you know, if it's soft, if you could put your finger through it, that's a problem. That's a really big problem. And this is going to be a little bit more tricky to fix because of that little lip on the bottom. Here's a look at the factory skid plate. You can see this frame's in really good shape. And so what I like to do when I'm looking at Jeeps and I'm inspecting their frame is put your finger in these low points here and feel the bottom. It should be smooth. It should feel like the outside of the frame for reference, and the bottom of the frame should feel the same. If you feel any sort of flaking, or this hole is filled up, or any of these holes that you can get your finger in, if those are filled up with chips or anything, this one's a really good one to do too, right above the skid plate, because this is a very common point for this to rot out. So nice and smooth, feels just like this, and that's exactly what you want. Here's a good one. There's that hole up there again, and I mean, even another spot to check too is these body mounts. This rail is a common spot to rot out as well. I've seen Jeeps where this whole entire section is missing, and I think that has something to do with the water going through that drain plug inside, which is up in here somewhere. I think it might actually drain like into here or something. No, it can't. There's no way it would do that. All right, so I just want to sum up what I'm getting at here in this little TED Talk. Asking prices for these things have gone up astronomically in the recent year, I would say, in 2020. So do your research and know what you're looking for when you're going to look at these things. Try not to let the excitement get over you. And if you're going to look at a Jeep like this with all the armor and everything, look underneath. You need to touch and feel. Bring a flashlight. Bring a flathead screwdriver and start poking around. If the person says it's not okay to do that, I would pass on it because it's just not worth it. The price for these things, they're not the greatest vehicles. They're very fun vehicles to drive. I mean, it just is what it is, but the engineering on them is nothing special or anything like that. These Jeeps are really like nothing special. So it's important to do your research before you get screwed out of it. A frame repair like you've seen on this one will easily cost you $1,500 to do it right. And so you really don't want to end up with that. Let's do a little recap if you want to go look at one of these things. First things first, check the frame. Everything else can be fixed. You know, you can take the body to a body shop and get something done about that. So check the frame and those 6 key points: the front control arms, the middle section, you know, shove a screwdriver in between the frame and the skid plate, see how soft that is. Check the rear control arms. Put your finger inside as many holes as you can, and it should feel just like the outside. The bottom of the inside of the frame should feel just like the outside does. It should be nice and smooth. If it's filled with chips or you feel it flaking, that's up to your discretion. I would pass on it myself. So checking the body, lift the carpets up, check those, see if you can peel back the front of the wheel wells in there, check that lower corner that I showed you, poke a screwdriver in there, see if it goes through, see how bad it is. That's not the end of the world as long as it's, you know, if you could put your hand in it, that's a problem. If you could put a screwdriver through it, it can be fixed relatively easily and cheaply. And then it's just the obvious things when you're looking at a car. You check the oil, you know, is it leaking? Is it making noises? A stock Jeep should drive down the road just fine. If it's shaking or anything like that, something is up. There's a lot of information on stuff like that on the internet, but this is just like a basic buyer's guide and something I just wanted to talk about. I'm very passionate about this. The asking price for these things is it's just insane to me. This is bone stock. The frame is in good shape. Everything else is like really bad on it. These things, I've seen Jeeps just like this up for $7 grand, and I just know, that they're not worth that much. The Kelley Blue Book on these things I don't think has caught up with the used market yet. Kelley Blue Book values on these are pretty accurate if you ask me. Yeah, so try not to get excited. Bring a screwdriver, bring your flashlight, feel around, and if you have any questions, you can send me a message on Instagram. You know, you're going to look at a Jeep or something, send me a message on Instagram. I'll give you some key things to look at. So yeah, just something I wanted to get off my chest, something I've been thinking about, especially while I have these 2 Jeeps. Especially while I have these 2 Jeeps here. It's just, you know, I can touch and feel and show you guys what's up. All right, so I'll see you guys in the next one. Hopefully we're gonna get going on this Jeep soon, and talk to you in the next one.
If I could take you up and boom, 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 tell me on the